I thought I had Southeast Asia figured out. I'd spent a week in Singapore's gleaming efficiency, marveling at the spotless streets and perfectly organized everything. I'd wandered through Shanghai's futuristic skyline and Beijing's ancient hutongs, experiencing China's incredible scale and rapid transformation. Both countries had left me impressed, educated, and convinced I understood the Asian experience. Then I crossed the causeway from Singapore into Malaysia, and within 24 hours, everything I thought I knew was turned sideways. Malaysia didn't just surprise me. It revealed a completely different kind of magic that neither the precision of Singapore nor the grandeur of China had prepared me for. This was chaos that somehow worked, diversity that actually thrived, and a cultural alchemy I hadn't known was possible. The shock started immediately at the border crossing. In Singapore, everything had been orderly, efficient, rule-based. Cross on the green light, queue in straight lines, follow the signs. Everything works exactly as designed. In China, I'd experienced the organized intensity of a massive nation with systems built for scale and speed. But stepping into Johor Bahru from Singapore felt like entering a different dimension. The energy changed instantly. The sound became louder and more layered, multiple languages mixing in conversations, call to prayer echoing from mosques, street vendors shouting friendly greetings, music from shops blending into an organic soundtrack. The smell shifted from Singapore's air-conditioned neutrality to a complex mixture of sauté grilling, tropical flowers, afternoon rain on hot pavement, and durian ripening in roadside stalls. Malaysia announced itself immediately through the senses, and nothing about it resembled the controlled perfection I'd just left or the managed dynamism I'd experienced in Chinese cities. The food scene delivered the first major revelation. Singapore's food was excellent. Clean hawker centers with Michelin-starred stalls, every cuisine represented, all safe and regulated. China's food was incredible. Regional specialties spanning a continent, ancient culinary traditions, flavors I'd never experienced before. But Malaysian food existed in a category I hadn't known was possible. At a mamak stall at midnight in Kuala Lumpur, I watched an Indian Muslim man make roti canai with techniques passed down through generations, while his Chinese Malaysian assistant took orders in a mixture of Malay, Mandarin, and English, serving customers who range from Malay families breaking their Ramadan fast to Chinese teenagers grabbing late-night snacks to Indian construction workers ending their shifts. The food itself was neither purely Indian, Chinese, nor Malay. It was authentically Malaysian, a cuisine that had evolved through centuries of cultural exchange. That single roti canai, crispy and fluffy, served with curry that blended spices from 3 continents, contained more cultural history than most museum exhibits. The diversity hit differently than anywhere I'd been. Singapore is famously multicultural, and it works beautifully. Everyone coexisting in harmony, different religions and ethnicities sharing space peacefully. China has incredible ethnic diversity across its vast geography, with distinct regional cultures and minority populations. But Malaysia's multiculturalism felt more lived, less curated than Singapore, more integrated than China's regional divisions. In Georgetown, Penang, I could walk down one street and pass a Chinese clan house, a Tamil Hindu temple, a Malay mosque, and a British colonial building, all actively used, all maintained by communities who'd lived side by side for generations. During Chinese New Year, I saw Malay neighbors helping hang decorations. During Hari Raya, Chinese shop owners closed early so Muslim friends could celebrate. The diversity wasn't a government program or a historical fact. It was daily life, messy and beautiful and real in ways that defied easy description. The pace of life created cognitive dissonance. Singapore operates like a precision machine. Everyone knows the rules, follows the systems, optimizes for efficiency. Chinese cities pulse with intense energy. Everyone rushing, building, growing, moving toward the future at breakneck speed. Malaysia moved to its own rhythm entirely. Things happened. Eventually, the bus might come at 3:15 instead of 3 o'clock, but no one seemed stressed about it. Shops opened when the owner felt ready, not according to posted hours. Conversations with strangers could last an hour because people actually had time to talk. At first, coming from Singapore's efficiency and China's intensity, this drove me crazy. I check my watch constantly, feel impatient, want things to move faster. Then somewhere around day 3, I stopped fighting it and realized this wasn't inefficiency. It was a different set of priorities. Malaysia valued human interaction over speed, flexibility over rigid scheduling, relationships over transactions. Once I adjusted to this rhythm, I found it incredibly liberating. The economic contrasts were striking and complex. Singapore is wealthy and shows it. Gleaming buildings, world-class infrastructure, prices that match first-world standards. China's major cities showcase incredible development, massive projects, cutting-edge technology, visible prosperity growing before your eyes. Malaysia sat somewhere in between, and that's where it got interesting. A street in Kuala Lumpur might have a luxury mall selling designer brands next to a Capitium coffee shop, where breakfast costs $2. Brand new MRT stations connected neighborhoods of modest shophouses that had stood for a century. People drove both Mercedes-Benzes and decades-old motorcycles, and neither seemed out of place. This economic diversity created accessibility. I could experience Malaysian culture at almost any budget level. Unlike Singapore, where budget travel meant constant compromises, or China, where tourist prices could vary wildly, Malaysia offered genuine experiences at genuinely affordable prices, while still having high-end options for those who wanted them. The language situation revealed something profound. In Singapore, English is universal alongside Mandarin, Malay, and Tamil, but there's a standardization to how people communicate. In China, Mandarin dominates cities while regional dialects persist, but there's a general linguistic coherence. Malaysia shattered all those patterns. I heard people switch between 4 languages in a single sentence. Let's go mocking at that new place. I heard their char kwai tio very shiok, but we must be there early la, otherwise sure cannot find parking. Malay, English, Mandarin food terms, Singlish-influenced grammar, all flowing naturally in what linguists call code switching, but what Malaysians just call talking. This wasn't confusion or lack of proper education. It was linguistic creativity, a language evolving in real time to serve a multicultural reality. It made communication more colorful, more precise in weird ways, and more inclusive because everyone participated in this hybrid language regardless of their ethnic background. The religious landscape operated on principles I'd never encountered. Singapore manages religious diversity carefully with regulations and designated spaces. It works well, but feels managed. China's approach to religion is complicated and often controlled, with state oversight and specific permitted practices. Malaysia, despite being a Muslim-majority country, practiced a form of religious coexistence that seemed almost impossibly relaxed. I watched Hindu processions march through Muslim neighborhoods with police escorts ensuring their safety. I saw Buddhist temples with Malay Muslim security guards who knew the prayer schedules and helped visitors. I visited a Sikh Gurdwara where the community kitchen served free meals to anyone regardless of religion, and half the volunteers were Chinese Malaysian. Churches held services freely. Hindu festivals were public holidays everyone celebrated, and the call to prayer coexisted with temple bells and church chimes. This wasn't mere tolerance, it was active, engaged pluralism where different faiths informed each other and shared space authentically. The urban planning revealed fundamentally different philosophies. Singapore is famously well-planned. Every neighborhood designed with purpose, green spaces allocated precisely, efficiency optimized everywhere. Chinese cities showcase ambitious urban planning at massive scale, entire new districts appearing in years, infrastructure projects that boggle the mind. Malaysian cities grew more organically, and initially, this looked like chaos. Streets weren't always logical. Neighborhoods blended together without clear boundaries. Old and new jumbled together without apparent planning. But spending time in places like Kuala Lumpur and Penang, I realized this organic growth created neighborhoods with soul, with history written into the streets, with communities that had evolved naturally over generations. 100-year-old shophouse might contain a hip coffee shop run by the owner's great-grandson. A modern condo tower stood next to a temple that predated the country itself. This wasn't poor planning. It was cities that prioritized preservation and adaptation over demolition and replacement. The hospitality culture operated on different principles than I'd experienced. Singaporeans are helpful and polite. If you ask for directions, you'll get clear, accurate information. Chinese hospitality is warm once you connect with people, though it can take time to break through initial reserve. Malaysian hospitality was immediate, effusive, and sometimes overwhelming. Strangers invited me to family dinners. Shop owners gave me fruit because you're our guest in Malaysia. A Grab driver once refused payment because it's my honor to help you see my country. At a homestay in a kampung outside Kuala Lumpur, the family not only hosted me but took me to a wedding, introduced me to neighbors, taught me to cook rendang, and stayed in touch for years afterward. This wasn't professional hospitality industry service. It was genuine cultural pride and warmth, a desire to share Malaysia with visitors because they genuinely loved their country and wanted others to love it too. The natural environment revealed priorities I hadn't expected. Singapore manages nature beautifully. Gardens by the bay, nature reserves, green spaces integrated into urban planning. China has stunning natural diversity across its vast geography, from karst mountains to vast deserts. But Malaysia's relationship with nature felt different. Less curated than Singapore, more accessible than China's often remote natural wonders. Rainforests came right up to city edges. National parks like Taman Negara were relatively easy to reach and explore. Even in cities, there was a tropical abundance. Trees grew with wild enthusiasm. Flowers bloomed year-round. Monsoon rains created dramatic afternoon storms that everyone accepted as part of life. Malaysia hadn't tried to fully tame or showcase its nature. It found ways to live alongside it, incorporating tropical reality into daily life rather than fighting it or containing it. The street life created the starkest contrast. Singapore's streets are clean, orderly, safe. You can walk anywhere without worry, but there's a contained quality to public space. China's streets are dynamic and bustling, full of life and commerce and constant activity at impressive scale. Malaysian streets were theater. In Petaling Street, Kuala Lumpur's Chinatown, vendors bargained with customers in multiple languages, while nearby stalls sold everything from fake watches to authentic traditional medicine to fresh durian. In Penang's night markets, food vendors competed for customers by calling out specialties, and the whole street became an aromatic adventure. People sat on plastic stools on sidewalks, eating and drinking and talking for hours. Street musicians played, buskers performed, small businesses operated out of converted vans. The streets belonged to people in a way that felt increasingly rare in modern cities, not as transit corridors, but as genuine public space where life happened. The cultural preservation approach revealed interesting values. Singapore preserves heritage carefully, certain neighborhood protected, museums documenting history, cultural practices supported through government programs. China's preservation is complex. Some areas beautifully maintained, others lost development, with ongoing efforts to protect and restore important sites. Malaysia's preservation felt more organic and sometimes precarious. Heritage buildings still function as homes and businesses rather than becoming museums. Traditional crafts survive because families still practice them, not because of government subsidies. This meant some things were lost to progress, but what remained felt alive and authentic rather than preserved in amber. A centuries-old clan house wasn't a tourist attraction. It was where the clans still met. A traditional medicine shop wasn't historical recreation. It was where people actually got their medicines. The realization that hit me hardest came during my last evening in Kuala Lumpur, sitting at a rooftop bar overlooking the Petronas Towers. Singapore had shown me that order and diversity could coexist beautifully through careful management and clear rules. China had shown me that ancient civilization and modern ambition could exist simultaneously through sheer scale and determination. But Malaysia had shown me something different. That messiness could be functional. That diversity could be genuinely integrated rather than just peacefully coexisting. That efficiency wasn't the only measure of success. That preserving the past didn't mean sacrificing the future. Malaysia worked not despite its contradictions, but because of them. The country had figured out how to be simultaneously Muslim and multicultural, modern and traditional, developing and developed, chaotic and functional. It refused to choose between options that other countries treated as mutually exclusive, and somehow, against all odds and Western expectations, it worked. This is a new channel dedicated to exploring the places that defy easy categorization, The destinations that surprise you precisely because they don't fit the narratives we construct about regions and cultures. I'm starting with Malaysia because it deserves far more recognition than it gets. Overshadowed by Singapore's efficiency and China scale, but offering something neither can match. Authenticity that comes from genuine cultural fusion rather than careful curation or historical preservation. If this video resonated with you, if you've experienced Malaysia's unique magic, or if you're now curious about exploring this underrated gem, please hit that like button and subscribe. Your support helps me continue uncovering the destinations that shock us in the best possible ways, the places that challenge our assumptions and expand our understanding of what countries and cultures can be. Leave a comment sharing what shocked you most about Malaysia or any other place that defied your expectations. Let's build a community that celebrates complexity, authenticity, and the beautiful messiness of cultures that refuse simple definitions. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next journey through Asia's most surprising destinations.